The Hyundai cars of recent times have started seeming more European than Korean. The designs are cleaning up well, the cabins are dressing up in a more sophisticated manner, the materials have started feeling more premium both inside and out and across various price ranges. And all their cars, well, they've started resembling each other a little too much like the Volkswagens. Now that isn't exactly a bad thing, and the Verna in particular can certainly benefit from that approach. The outgoing Verna is a tad too long in the tooth, but the fluidic design language did make an impact, and even the competition was forced to respond with radical designs. I personally believe that the design did not age too well, and perhaps the designers at Hyundai resonate with my thoughts. For the new Verna now incorporates cleaner lines, has lesser creases, and uses more angular cuts for a chiseled look. The face looks handsome and sharp. I prefer the older design of Hyundai's hexagonal grille, and the new one draws attention away from the other good-looking bits like the sleek headlamps or the detailed fog lamp housings. There is no denying though that the cascading grille with its chrome treatment looks more premium. The headlamps have LED DRLs that are shaped similar to those on the Elantra. Ditto for the detailing of the tail lights and the rear bumper. The latter looks quite smart with its two-tone combination. The Verna also incorporates the Elantra's hands-free function for the boot lid, which means that you simply walk close to the car with the key in your pocket, it will detect it, give you 3 beeps, and then open the boot lid on its own. It's a nice function to have if you're a shopaholic, and at 480 litres it's not exactly the best-in-class boot space, but it's quite well laid out and very easy to load as well. The outgoing Verna started the buzz about the diamond cut finish for the alloy wheels, and the new one gets it too, albeit with a smart new design. The sharp shoulder line and the detailing of the doors looks classy, while the headlights and the taillights extending sharply into the bodywork adds a sense of motion to the design. Look at the side profile and you will notice that the Verna has a tall voice stance compared to the sporty low-slung poise of the Elantra. The cabin of the Verna though isn't reminiscent of the Elantra. It takes a more Hyundai typical approach of using black and beige color combinations for its dashboard fascia and its upholstery. The layout is quite similar to that of the Creta, and you have this gloss black panel here which is a fingerprint magnet as expected, but what I like is the satin finish bezels that you have around the AC vents and the infotainment system. I would have preferred an all black layout in here. It not only looks more premium but also works better for our dusty conditions, and it also ages quite well as compared to the typical cabins that we've seen in other Hyundai cars. Overall, the fit and finish feels quite good, and the materials for all the touch points, they feel quite premium. This cabin doesn't give you that plasticky feel that some of this car's rivals do. Sharing its platform with the Elantra, the new Verna has now grown larger inside and out, and that makes for a more spacious cabin. The front seats are quite accommodating and now come with a ventilated function. The latter complements a well-tuned automatic air conditioning system which worked flawlessly in the hot and humid weather of Kochi during our tests. Cooling at the rear is quite effective too. If I remember right, the rear seat of the Ciaz feels a tad bit more roomier as compared to the Verna, but as far as the Verna is concerned, it gives you ample space for your head, for your knees, for your feet. There's good under-thigh support as well, and like the Ciaz, you also get this window blind which is manually operated. Now, the cushioning is slightly on the firmer side, so I think it's going to be quite good for long distance journeys. We have hardly driven about 200 kilometers today, but in that 200 kilometers, it has felt quite comfortable. The angle of the backrest, the contouring of the seats, it's quite good. The rear seat is good enough for 2 adults and a kid, and you have head restraints only for 2 adults, so strictly for 2 adults and a kid. The top spec trims come with a 7-inch touchscreen infotainment system similar to the one in the Creta. It gets Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, MirrorLink and satellite navigation. Hyundai has provided 3 USB ports in the cabin, one of which is mated to the infotainment's audio interface, while the other 2 are meant for charging compatible USB devices. There are plenty of storage spaces inside the cabin too, comprising of the cool glove box, 2 cup holders each in the tunnel console and the rear center armrest, and bottle holders in all door pockets. The storage spaces and all the switches fall easily at hand. Overall, the Verna's cabin doesn't seem like the most spacious cabin of the lot, but is easily the most premium one in the category in its look and feel. None of the famous crash testing facilities around the world have released any sort of data regarding the crashworthiness of this car. However, Hyundai promises that the Verna is now safer than before, and more than 50% of the chassis is constructed using advanced high-strength steels. They have also used hot stamped body parts. They have also used newer bonding technologies, all to make sure that the structure is now safer and also has better crumple zones. In terms of safety features, the driver and the co-passenger airbags are now standard across the range. On the range-topping trims, you can have up to 6 airbags. Anti-lock brakes are also standard, so are the ISOFIX mounts for mounting child seats. And they are neatly tucked away in the rear seat. They are not visible and nicely tucked away. Connected technologies and smartphone applications specific to the vehicle or to the brand seem to be the in thing these days. Some of Hyundai's rivals are doing it, and the Verna also happens to be the first vehicle to get an application like this. The application basically is a collection of nifty little tools, some of which are tools like the ones that let you track your vehicle in a parking spot, some tools that will let you keep track of your service history, also set service reminders. You can also browse through the vehicle's driving data or driving history. So if you want to keep a check on your chauffeur or maybe your kids, you can do that as well. It's a nifty little app and is available for both the iPhone as well as Android phones. In fact, we did try using it. It's quite convenient, quite easy to use. The app is not too laggy either. The only catch is it's only available with the top spec trim of the Verna so far, because it requires a hardware module to be integrated with the infotainment system. The new Verna chucks the entry-level 1.4-litre motors from the model it replaces, but continues to use the 1.6-litre 4-cylinder engines for its petrol and diesel options. Both the engines can now also be had with a 6-speed automatic or a 6-speed manual transmission, and the diesel manual is what we got our hands on for this test. The moment you crank up the engine, you will be reminded of how refined Hyundai's new-age diesel motors feel. At idling RPM, you just can't tell it's a diesel motor. That's how refined and that's how silent it sounds, thanks to all the new sound deadening material that has been used in the chassis and the bodywork. It's only past the 3500 RPM mark where you get a tiny bit of that gravelly note, but that's something that you can live with on a daily basis. As far as the output is concerned, 128 PS and 260 Newton meters, those are class-leading figures, and I don't need a V-Box to tell you that the Verna, yet again, will be one of the quickest cars in its lot. Where it matters in the real world though, is in the way in which it can pull quick overtakes or cruise effortlessly on the highway. You can happily be in third or the fourth gear for most of the urban duties, and to add to the convenience, the clutch pedal is now lighter and has lost its springy nature. On the highway, the Verna will cruise at 100 km an hour at about 2000 RPM. That should also give it excellent fuel economy despite the high power and torque outputs. Hyundai has been improving the driving dynamics lately, and the Verna plays testimony to the fact. Unlike the outgoing model, which had a floaty feel at highway speeds, the new one feels significantly more sure-footed thanks to the longer wheelbase, and around the twisties, it feels quite stable as well. Hyundai also says that they have worked on the overall suspension geometry, which also improves the ride and the handling. There is a bit of vertical movement when you hit the switchbacks. However, the ride quality, it's phenomenal. It just reminds me of the Elantra again. The suspension remains silent when you go over potholes, ruts and joints, and that's a very good thing. Tire noise creeps into the cabin at about 90 km an hour on tarmac or 70 km an hour on concrete, while wind noise is audible past the 120 km an hour mark. The tires have a decent grip for regular use and complement the progressive braking of the Verna quite well. Hyundai also seems to have put in a significant amount of effort in improving the feel and the feedback of the steering system. Now, around switchbacks, around twisties, the effort is evident. However, at slower city speeds, you feel that the movement of the steering has that elastic feel to it, where the steering is a little too eager to come back to its center position. It's not something that's difficult to live with. However, you might miss the light and convenient steering wheels that you had on the previous Hyundai cars. If I was given a choice though, I would take this over those lifeless steering systems of the older Hyundais. Overall, the Verna is easy to drive and feels convenient in the city and on the highway. It isn't an enthusiast driver, but I personally wouldn't mind living with a Verna anymore. The Verna then reminds me of the Elantra in more ways than one, and that isn't a bad thing. Its elder sibling has won all the comparisons that we put her through, and the Verna scores high on all the counts that actually made the Elantra win. Now, Hyundai has also managed to package and price this car quite well, despite the absence of the entry-level 1.4-litre engines and the inclusion of new generation safety technologies and creature comforts. As a package then, I think the Verna should be able to breathe some fresh air into a segment that is literally fighting for its existence thanks to those compact crossovers and SUVs.